This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Always a pleasure to be joined by Olympic bronze medalist Anthony Ogogo, turned professional wrestler, might I add, Anthony Ogogo. How are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you, pal? You good?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Every time I see you, you start to look a little bit bulky and a little bit scarier, Ant.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, and the belly's getting a bit bigger as well. So I jumped on a scales the other day. I jumped on a scales the other day, and I was almost 17 stone, almost 17. And I was like, and I'm bulking at the minute, so I'm getting fat intentionally at the minute, so I can start cutting over Christmas, and then hopefully by like springtime, when I make my debut in wrestling, hopefully I should be more cut. But 17 stone, and I said we put this interview back 10 minutes. I said to you, I need to wolf some food down. I just ate the biggest plate of brown rice and steak and vegetables, so I feel like a bloody snowman right now. But yeah, it means the hard work is paying off. So thank you for that, Rob.
Well, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And I bet it beats the days where you were struggling to make 160.
It does, you know, it really does. And I look back now, and I look back. It's funny because I look back on pictures and videos of me like when I was boxing. But the funny thing is, like in my head, like hand on my heart, in my head back then, I thought I was massive. I thought I was jacked. I thought I was a monster, and I genuinely did. I genuinely did. And I look, and so did my wife. And I'm like, babe, why didn't you tell me I was so skinny? I thought you were like really handsome and muscly. I said, so did I. I look back at pictures now, and I'm embarrassed how skinny I was. Nobody told me. So, you know.
Before we move on and talk some boxing, Ant, just give us a little bit of an insight into your training and how you're developing in your new career. You mentioned about potentially having your debut next year. Just talk to us a little bit about it. I know the last time I spoke to you was slightly earlier on in your development, and we talked about the different training. How are you getting on?
Yeah. No, well, thank you, mate. Going really well. Obviously, COVID has, scuppered all plans. Like this year is meant to be my big breakout year, and I was going to debut this year and hopefully go on from strength to strength. COVID's obviously paused the whole world, which has been really frustrating. But on a grand scheme of things, like having to delay a debut 6 months when people are like losing their lives, losing their businesses and stuff is a very, very, very trivial thing. So it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But it's going really well, training really hard. I'm just training hard and learning wrestling. I've put on and putting size on. I'm training all clean before you monsters start waiting. He's a drugs cheat. Training really hard, working hard, busting my ass in the gym. I'm wrestling every day now, so and that hurts. It hurts. I don't know other way to say it. Everything about wrestling hurts. And that's one of the main differences in boxing and wrestling. Like people think wrestling, that's not real. Bloody hell. You get thrown off the top turnbuckle on the floor. You have a giant 260-pound man jump on you and splash you. I mean, you can't fake that. There's nothing not real about that. And the thing like with boxing, like you go into boxing knowing that this is gonna hurt. Jabs hurt, backhands hurt, hooks hurt, body shots hurt, sparring hurts. Doing all that whilst you're making a weight and then dieting, that hurts. But when I went into wrestling, I thought, I've boxed for 18 years. Now I can have fun and relax. It's all fun and games and interviews and this and that and gesturing and all the facade of it all. Day one training session, whack, whack, whack. Ouch. Getting chopped. Like, there's a guy who I train with, and he's huge. His hands are like spades. And you might see in wrestling, like, chops, big, like, chop to the chest. Deary me. Like, I used to, so when I first started doing it, when I do it, I kind of kick when I get chopped. I kick my legs up in the air to make it look like it hurts more. But then this one guy that I work with, like when he hits me, I barely sell it. We call it in wrestling when you get a move done to you, you sell, like you make it look more than it was. With him, I don't sell because it hurts so much. Every ounce of me is thinking, oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So the difference in wrestling is boxing, you know it's going to hurt. So you know that. Wrestling, you don't think it's going to hurt, and everything hurts. So, yeah, I generally picked the two toughest businesses to go into, and I don't know why.
Sort of like out of the frying pan and into the fire.
100%.
Well, not that we don't like listening to stories of you getting beaten up and slapped and splashed and chopped and what have you. Obviously, the reason we're doing this interview this past weekend, very high-profile fight, Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce. Daniel Dubois took a knee in the 10th round, ultimately lost by knockout to Joe Joyce. And I know that, you know, people who'll be watching this interview will know the reason why we're doing this. You were forced to retire early due to an eye injury. Just run us through, first and foremost, your impression of the fight this past weekend.
I think it went exactly as I thought it was going to go. I think I did one or two predictions of how I thought the fight was going to go, and it went exactly how I thought it was going to go. Joe Joyce was too big, too strong, and too much of a big, strong man for Daniel Dubois. And it's obvious to see, you watch like the first 30 seconds, that Dubois is more talented, he's more skillful, he's got a massive upside. Therefore, he's going to, you know, like, if you could pick his style to be, you're probably going to pick, you could pick Joe Joyce at 34, 35 years old, or Daniel Dubois 23 years old, at this stage in their career, then you're going to beat Daniel Dubois because he's got 12 years younger than him. He's got loads of bags of potential. He'll come back, hopefully, fingers crossed, will come back and do amazing things with boxing and British boxing. But I've known Joe for 10 years, since the Great Britain squad, and I like Joe. He's a lovely lad, and he can really fight. But you sit and watch him, you sit and watch him on the pads, on the bag, and any boxer watching this will know exactly what I mean when I say this. I mean no disrespect to Joe. He's a mate of mine, and he's hopefully will one day become world heavyweight champion. But you look at him on the pads, and if like any boxer watching, as I said, will know, like, before you fight somebody, like, you know, as an amateur, you know, as a youngster, you'd all like warm up together on the pad together, and if they look good in the pads, you go, oh fuck, he's good, you know. You see some people look rubbish on the pads. You go, oh, I'm going to smash him. Well, Joe looks rubbish on the pads. He doesn't look good. It's like, oh, I'm going to smash him. But when the bell goes, he's so big, he's so fit, he's so strong, he keeps coming. His head is like punching a bloody a piece of granite. He doesn't get hurt. He's just good. He wins fights. And I knew that I personally thought Dubois was a bit too young. 23 years old as a heavyweight is an absolute baby. So I thought it'd be a bit too young, a bit too naive, a bit too inexperienced to outwork Joe and out hustle him. He didn't. I don't think he knew enough either. Like, I think Joe, you know, you've got to be the best of the best to beat Joe. The only guys that would give Joe problems are Tyson Fury and Joshua with his speed and power. But someone like a Fury, I think, would beat Joe right now. If you're below that upper echelon, he's probably going to beat you and guide you down. And that's exactly what he did. And he boxed to his strengths, his limited ability in terms of it doesn't do that much different to what he does in round 1 to round 10. He boxed fantastically and hats off to the boy. Done really, really well.
The end of the fight. Now, the end of the fight has caused much controversy or much debate, discussion, should we say. The Q word been thrown around. Quit. Daniel Dubois quit. Now, given your experiences with eye injuries, given your experiences of, you know, going through trauma throughout your professional career and ultimately having to cut your career short, just explain to us what it feels like to have that word levied at you.
Yeah, so I had So I did a tweet to, I mean, I don't know Daniel Dubois. I don't know him at all. I wanted Joe to win the fight. So I wanted. I watched it as a fan. I didn't really care either or, to be honest with you. But I know Joe. Known him for 10 years. He's older than Dubois. If he'd lost that fight, where does he go? With Dubois, 23 years old, he could lose that fight and come back. You know. So I was actually rooting for Joe a little bit. I don't know Daniel Dubois. Never met him. Never spoken to him. I just saw he was getting a bit of stick on Twitter. And my old coach, Barry O'Connell, actually texted me saying, this Dubois is getting a bit of stick. You might want to, like, you know, have a word. And I thought, I don't know him. I can't get hold of him. I don't know any mutual friends. I've been out of the game for a few years now, and I've actually intentionally kind of like kept some distance between me and boxing because it still hurts me to watch boxing. It still breaks my heart to watch boxing because I want to be fighting Canelo for the world title, not Callum Smith, you know. So I deal with it by not watching as much as I would like to. Anyway, tweeted Daniel just saying, look, mate, I mean, I lost my career through an injury, something that sounds quite similar, an early diagnosis. I had 9 operations in 3 years, and my career got ripped away from me. And I'd be gutted to see his career go the same way as mine, just because he's a young man and he's worked very hard. So, if there's any advice I can give him, or doctors to see, or not who not to see, because there was nobody who paved the way for me. I had to do it all myself. I saw so many doctors all around the world, from India to America to Britain to Germany. I went everywhere to see specialists to keep my career alive. And if I could help him kind of reduce the legwork for him, then I would, because I think that's the right thing to do. So, so I remember I've never watched my fight back because it was the worst night of my life. I don't want to watch it back. And now I boxed somebody who's a decent boxer with 22% vision, and I was getting, look, I didn't, it sounds really silly, but the only way I can describe it is that I didn't know I was getting hit until I was being hit. I couldn't see where he was. I was judging, he was a southpaw, Craig Cunningham, and I was using my left leg as like a blind man's stick, and I was kind of like waving in front of me, and if I felt something, I'd just punch. If I felt his lead leg, I'd just punch. I had no clue where he was. I was trying to box. I was punching off his breathing. Like if I heard him breathe, I thought he must be in range. I'm just going to punch. A complete hit and hope job. So yeah, it was horrible, but I never watched my fight back. But somebody said to me that Macklin questioned my heart or said that I quit or something. And I thought, what if I never stopped? I've seen Matthew once. I didn't bring up with him because it wasn't the right time. And I mean, what's the point? I'm not going to get anything from it. I don't care what he says about me. But it upset me that someone like him doesn't know me, doesn't know the path I've journeyed, the shoes that I've walked in, can say I quit. When my eye was fucked before that fight, my eye got massively exacerbated in round 1. And I carried on fighting for 8 rounds, as I told you earlier, not knowing where he was. And I didn't know I was getting hit until I was hit. I've been boxing around, yeah. And there's 2 things in the fight I remember. My left arm was so steady because my left eye was damaged. My left arm was rock solid to my face because I was getting hit, and I was just protecting me from shots I didn't see coming. And then 2 things I remember. 1 minute, I heard him breathing there, and I thought he's right in front of me. I'm going to throw the biggest right hook in my life, and I'm going to take his head off. I threw it. I missed by a country mile, almost on a full pirouette. And a second time in the fight, and I've seen this clip back on a video that someone done and showed it to me. I don't know why, but I same thing. Left hand is really tight, and my left arm was full of lactic acid because it was so tense. So I backed away. So I thought I was 6 feet away, and I shook my arms out, and in reality, it was right in front of me. You know, bang, backhand, straight down the pipe, and he smashed me in the face. And I thought, fucking hell! Like in my head, I thought he was way far away, so that kind of emphasises the fact that I was getting hit and I didn't know I was getting hit. Yes, that was rubbish. But so the fact that somebody can say that, like, question my heart when I went through so much, and every round in the corner, I was begging my coach, don't throw the towel in. And I was pretending that I was having a bad day. I was pretending that I didn't feel very well. So I didn't want to tell him my eye was fucked. So if I told him my eye was fucked, he was going to towel me. And I didn't want him to towel me. I wanted to win the fight because I was in a fight. So that, yeah, you know, it breaks your heart when these experts tell you that, you know, you haven't got the heart or you quit. And I don't know the Dubois situation. I don't know what he's like as a person. I don't know his character. So I wouldn't question like what he was going through. But all I can talk is like a personal thing. When people, like Macklin, question my heart, I'm like, mate, I've got more heart than you. Just because I never got the opportunity to fight for the world title, don't question my heart. You know, that really wound me up. And I've held on to that for a long time. And it came out yesterday because someone asked me the question. And I saw he did the same thing with Dubois on Saturday night.
Now, being accused of being a quitter or having that kind of thrown at you, probably, I'm not a fighter, I've never fought, but I would assume it's probably one of the worst things that can be levelled at you, if not, other than maybe a cheat, a quitter or a cheat, probably the 2 worst things that can be thrown your way. What does boxing need to do to address that? Because we're seeing fighters that are getting hurt in the ring, for somebody like yourself, being left with long-term damage. We've seen fighters die. Do we need to look at that as a sport? I mean, it's a very macho sport, boxing, but way to look at it.
Listen, you know, boxing attracts a person cut from a certain kind of cloth, and it attracts people like us that want to fight. And someone, you know, I'm going to answer that question in a minute. Actually, I'll answer the question now. I'll come back to that later. What it needs is for people like ex-pros, people that have been there and done it, not to fucking throw people under the bus and call people a quitter. Not until you know the full situation. I've had a fractured eye socket. My eye socket was obliterated. 8 fractures. Bits of floating bone. And I carried on fighting. Nerve damage in my eye. I was pointing in the wrong direction. And I don't see out it barely at all anymore. And for someone, I'm using Macklin as an example because he's topical and he did it with me. Question my heart. I was like, mate, you have no idea. If you question my heart, I'd have pulled out. I wouldn't have even thought. Put out in round 1. Maybe had I done that, maybe I'd had a career still to have now. And the thing, so I don't know. I mean, boxing's always going to attract a certain type of person because we live for that. We are. To get through the ropes. It shows so much bollocks in courage and heart anyway. And also, on this situation, like, it's easy to comment, easy to be the armchair fan and sit back with your Stella in your hand and say, oh, we should have done that. It's like, mate, when did you last box live on BT Sport on a Saturday night? When did you last have an 18.5 stone man, Joe Joyce, punching you in the head at will? Mate, like, and those people that can comment, like, yeah, let's stick them in the ring and let Joe Joyce fucking pound their faces in and see what they would have done, So, and I'm not defending Daniel Dubois. I don't know the guy, I don't know him at all. It's just, it frustrates me. People, so I've been on the other end, and I've had people like Matthew Macklin, or I've had pros or promoters, or even just fans, like, comment on what I should have done, or it pisses you off. You don't know the situation. I wouldn't comment on an old girl over the world who's fighting cancer because I've never been in her shoes. I've never done that. So why do people have the right to comment on Daniel Dubois and what he should have done, or
Well, since come out from the fight, that he's got a fractured eye socket. There's some nerve damage. Obviously, I'm not. You're probably much more well versed to discuss that than I am. But given the extent of those injuries, the correct decision to take a knee and sit out the 10 count.
Oh, I used this. I did an interview with Talk Sport earlier, and this is the example I used. Like, let's say he quit, right? Let's say he took a knee and he let the referee count him out, and he, if he did that, then fine, whatever. Like, he did that. That's a decision he's got to make and he's got to live with. But now let's say this. Let's say he'd have got up and carried on boxing, and the very next round, Joe Joyce, a big overhand right, boom, smashed him, and his eye capitulated like mine did. Or worse still, takes a big shot, gets a brain aneurysm, can never box again. And he's in a wheelchair like Michael Watson or Gerald McClellan, and he's in a bad way, 23 years old, still a baby in terms of life. He's now got to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. He dribbles, or he can't talk. Someone's got to talk for him. Like, that's what can happen in boxing. It's not football where you've got a dodgy eye, you're a goalkeeper, oops, I've conceded a goal. I still get 200 grand a week. It's not like that. It's boxing. Your life is on the line. Now, let's say, now I don't know if this was going through his head. Like, I don't know. That's why we're commenting on it right now. But let's say he took a knee. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't want to see somebody lose their career like I did. Fingers crossed, the operation is easy fix and the nerve repairs and he can box again next September. He still is only 23. He's got 15, 18, 20 years of boxing left in him if he wants to have it. And let's say he took the knee, lost the fight, he comes back, and in 3 years' time, when Fury's, Joshua's, Joe Joyce all retire, he's the #1 heavyweight in the world, heavyweight champion, earns £100 million. Like, taking that knee would quickly become the best decision he's ever made in his entire life. Versus carrying on boxing, next punch, does his eye like me, never fights again, and now he's got to go out and get a job. Like, I have to go out and get a job, So yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. People just, yeah. I mean, I think I answered your question, I think.
No, you did. You did answer my question. The next one is kind of, how does it feel, really? How is Daniel Dubois going to be feeling now? Obviously, you don't know him personally, but you've been in a similar situation where you had an eye injury, and obviously it's brought an end to the fight. How do you think he'll be feeling today?
Like, I felt like my whole... it's a weird one, a myriad of emotions, because I don't know him, and this is a question that is unique to the individual you're asking it to. I'm very unique in the way I was thinking. But I always thought I was going to box again, even after so I had 7 operations on my eye. I retired. I had 2 more when the pressure was off, and people were going to ask me, "Are you boxing? Are you going to box again?" I rolled the dice 2 more times, had 2 more surgeries in the hope that they would work and I could make this miraculous return to boxing, and they didn't. So after my 7th surgery, the last 2, I was just rolling the dice because I had a little bit of money left and I did. So I wanted to box again. And then after my 9th, I had no more and I couldn't. But up until my 7th surgery, I generally thought I was going to box again. 100% thought I was going to box again. Like, even when my eyes were pointing in different directions and I had 22% vision on my left eye and I got told my vision was bad, that this is registered blind vision in the left eye. I always thought I was going to box again. I generally did. And I worked towards that. I kept throwing money at different surgeries in America and here and there and traveling the world to see different consultants. So when I retired, people said to me, "You must feel like some sense of relief now that it's just over." And I was like, nah. I feel as bad now when I retired, as I remember speaking to you, as I did the day after it happened. Because I always thought I was going to box in, I was going to avenge that loss and then go on and become world champion. I never did. So I don't know what his psyche is like. I don't know how mentally strong he is. Extremely deflated, but all his effort and energy now should be go on getting his eye fixed. Once the eye's fixed, get back. Fingers crossed the eye will get fixed. Then crack on and have the career that you want to have. And if that was me, if I was Anthony Dubois, I'd take heed of advice from people like myself, people that have walked that road before. And I would use this stick. I would screenshot every negative tweet that I'd have been sent or tagged in, and I'd use that as energy. So in 3 years down the line, when he doesn't want to get up and train, he looks back on this boxer saying, "He's got no arsehole." Now that would get me out of bed and get me training harder. That's what I would do personally. But as I said, I don't know if he is. But regarding the injury, I mean, I know he said a fractured orbit and the nerve damage. Like, a fractured orbit is quite simple to fix. That's not that big of a deal. They happen every day all around the world and different sports people. So had my injury just been a fractured eye socket, I'd have got back boxing 3 months later. That's not that big of a deal. The nerve damage is more concerning because eye damage. So the eye socket, the orbit, protects the eyeball. That's its main function. Protects the eyeball and all the soft tissues around it, the nerves and muscles that move the eye. And mine was shattered. So when I was getting hit in the eye, the eye socket wasn't protecting it anymore because it was damaged itself. So the eye was getting damaged, and the nerve was getting damaged, and the muscles were getting damaged. So fixing the eye socket was the easiest bit of my recovery, but aligning the eyes and trying to make them work together as a pair in tandem was the much trickier thing. And then I had a Botox procedure in my eyeball, which they injected. One muscle wasn't working properly, so my left eye was twisted in. And you might have done interviews in the past where I've said that I was fighting Craig Cunningham, and I saw 2 of him. And one was like, my right eye gave me Craig Cunningham. My right eye was down in the floor, like he was in the canvas, which is really weird. And the left one was pointing in a different direction. She was up in the air, and he was twisted. So my left eye was twisted in 30 degrees. And I was fighting 2 different people, one up there, one up here. But the difficult thing was I had torsion, which means your eye is twisted in. And I'm getting hit by a man who's basically lying down in the air. Like, that's weird. Also hit by the same man in the floor. That's the horrible, most. I couldn't. So, but it's a common thing in car crashes. Like, someone had a car crash, smashed their face on a window or something, and then their eye socket shatters, and because of the force, the eye then changes, moves position, and points in a different direction. That's how the problem I had. That's how you get them. And I was really unlucky that I suffered a fractured eye socket. I didn't know I had fractured my eye socket. I had no idea. Normally, like you saw with Joe, it swells up really bad, or with Daniel. Mine didn't swell up at all. I didn't get a black eye. I must have had a really slow fracture over many, many, many years. And one day, one jab just set it off. And then then I boxed 3 weeks later because I was told to box, because I was told it wasn't going to get any worse. And then the whole thing's unraveled. But the point I'm making is, if the nerve damage is really bad, he'll struggle to box again because the nerve supplies the eye, and nerves don't heal like muscles heal. The Botox I had should have went into the muscle. It would have weakened the muscle for 12 weeks. We were going to judge off the effect on the Botox. Do we then operate on that muscle to weaken it surgically? But the Botox didn't go into the muscle, went into the nerve, and has caused permanent paralysis in the nerve in my left eye, and that can never get better. And that was the main reason why I never got back. And I had 6 surgeries after that, 7 surgeries after that to try to get them good, and damage was so bad in the nerve I never got back. So depends the nerve damage, how bad it is. Fingers crossed, if it's a slight bruise, like hopefully it'll kind of get better, or his brain can adapt, because your brain can adapt your eyes a little bit. Hopefully it won't be too big of a deal, but I guess that's something he's got to find out, as when the swelling goes down and he sees all the ophthalmologists, he'll figure out what he can do.
Okay, Anthony. Well, the final question I've got, and this is going to be quite a vague, generic question, and potentially slightly stupid as well, but I'd like you to do your best to answer it because you are in a unique position in this situation. How scary is it when something like this is happening to you while you're in the ring? And how scary is it when you're going through all of these rehabilitations, when you're wrestling with these thoughts that you may never box again, that you could be blind in one eye, you could have damaged eyesight for the rest of your life? How scary are those two situations?
Really scary, mate. That's not a silly question. That's actually a really good question. Really scary. And what I've said in the past and what I'm saying now is, I love boxing. Like, I love boxing. I was as a kid, I was bad at so many things. But the one thing I was good at was sport. I was always good at sport. And I played football to a high level, and I was at Norwich Academy, and I was captain of my county, and I swam to a national level. And I could have went in different avenues because, as I said, I'm rubbish loads of things. I've always been very good at sport. Now, I started boxing at 12, and the second I walked in the boxing gym, I basically gave up football, even though I was at an academy, Premier League academy club, because boxing gave me something the other sports didn't give me. And I loved woxing. I loved it. And I would have fought anybody, anytime, any place, for any money. I just loved boxing. And that night, again, like Craig Cunningham, was the worst night of my life. And even my worst enemy, I would want him to go through what I went through that night, because you're getting punched, as I said earlier. And I felt like getting punched by 20 people. You can't see it coming. One person's there, and you don't know when you're getting hit until you're getting hit. And equilibrium's all off, and it feels like you're drunk. It feels like you're boxing and you're pissed off. And you're getting hit, and you feel sick, you feel nauseous because you can't see. Like, your eyes are so important. And I'm seeing this man who's flying in the air and he's in the ground. It's the weirdest thing and horrible. And it was the worst night of my life, and I hated it, and I wouldn't want anybody to go through it, and that's really scary. And boxing's a sport, as I said, where if you lose, or if you concede a goal in football, or we concede it, that's rubbish, but in boxing, you can get hurt, like actually really hurt. And like I said, the scary thing, like after the injury, when you live the rest of your life, like there's loads of things I can't do now. Sounds really silly, but I can't go out into my garden and do keepy-ups anymore, because my eyes don't work. My left eye does not go down. So I can't look down and do keepy-ups. That's rubbish. So when I'm older, when I have kids eventually, and I can't even teach them keepy-ups because I can't even do them. And then stuff like that. Like, I would love to play football with my son, my daughter, but other than side passing, I probably can't. And also, I used to love going down the snooker club with the boys on a Thursday night, having a shandy and playing a snooker. And that sounds really silly, but I can't do that now. And I see people play pool in a pub and play snooker, and I get bitter and jealous because my left eye doesn't move, so I can't play snooker. And that's shit. So, and listen, again, grand scheme of things, I'm alive, and I'm a very positive person, and I personally choose to live life on that positive side. And positive on the way, I could have thought, I was scheduled to fight Canelo in like 2 or 3 fights time for the world middleweight title. My eye could have went against him because he punched so hard. I could have been left paralyzed or dead, or in a real bad, much worse state than I was. And luckily, I was against Craig Cunningham, who didn't punch very hard at all. So that was that's a very fun thing. So I could have got a lot of money for fighting Canelo, and been in a wheelchair the rest of my life, unable to actually enjoy it. So, yeah, that's the way I look at things. I'm very fortunate that it happened the way it did, rather than much worse. And if I get any advice for Daniel, yeah, to be really positive. And like, I was really unlucky, but chances are he won't be as unlucky as me. He won't, yeah, like, no, yeah, get misdiagnosed or have an injection which goes wrong. And, you know, that's really, really shit luck. Hopefully, it'll be quite a quick fix for him, and he can get back out next year and put the wrong to right. And I wish him all the best.
Anthony Ogogo, it's always a real pleasure catching up with you. I do appreciate your time. Really, really pleased to see you to doing so well in your new chosen career. As you mentioned in the interview, I was there on that day where you retired from boxing. I saw the devastation in your face, and I'm really, really pleased to see that you've found a new calling in life. And I'll be eagerly awaiting your professional wrestling debut. Anthony Ogogo, real pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, mate. All the best.